Welcome back. We are in Nelson on the eastern bay of the Tasman for the first game of the day between Australia and Russia. And Robbie Deans will be hoping that his side can get a bonus point win to seal qualification from Pool C. And more importantly, his injury-ravaged squad can emerge from the game with a clean bit of health ahead of the knockout stages. It's a difficult way to go in, isn't it, to a match? You know, try and keep yourself fit, boys, but win at the same time. You know.
There's also, you know, I think it's a matter of you can't sort of think, I'll hold myself back a little bit because I may get injured. You've got to go in there and play as tough as you can. And you know, there's a few guys that are coming back into this team. David Pocock, for one, who's a really important cog, so he'll be trying to get some game time, and it'll be good to see him. Scott Higginbotham, his back row partner. It's his first start this World Cup. Had a great year. So all these guys, they're going to go out and play and really sort of put a marker down going forward. But, you know, that in the back of your mind, there's that injury doubt.
Danny, you've terrorised and you've been terrorised by many number sevens. How about Pocock? How good is this guy?
Oh, he's up there with the best in the world, I think. You know, with Richie McCaw, I think they're the two standout sevens at the moment. You know, he's one of those players who, once again, gets away with everything. You don't know how, but that's what the best sevens do. You know, he steals ball, he carries ball, he scores tries, and more importantly, you know, he really gets the side going. I think he's a great team player. He seems like a well-liked player in the squad, and you know, he's brilliant.
OK, well, the sound of the Bukaya is our cue to stop chatting, and for Alan Quinlan and Simon Ward to start talking. Over to you, boys.
Thank you, Craig. Well, as we start a new month, so we finish the pool stages, and this, of course, is the last of those 5 pool games rescheduled from Christchurch, the third and final match to be played here. Half a dozen changes for the Russians. Skipper Korshunov has recovered from his leg injury to lead. Yuri Kushnerev gets the nod over Rashkov for the number 10 shirt. Adam Burns up against familiar faces and accents this afternoon. It's been a real mix and match selection from Robbie Deans today with the fallout from the USA match. He's forced to look for the Jonah factor out wide with number 8 Radiki Samo repositioned. Burgess and Barnes join in for their first starts in the back line, and it's a new back row of Higginbotham, Pocock and McCullman. For the final match to be played here at Trafalgar Park, there's the bench. All 3 hookers and scrum halves being utilised today for the Australians, so watch out for a slightly different looking team later on in the game. The previous 2 games here at Trafalgar Park have averaged over 50 points a game. No reason to think really that this will buck the trend, though how it's divvied out, well, we'll wait and see.
Would you please be upstanding
Before
for
we
the
get
national
on with
anthems
the
of
rugby
Russia
action,
and Australia,
let's
recorded by
be
the New
silent
Zealand
for
Symphony
the
Orchestra
national
and
anthems
performed
of
today
Australia
by the New Zealand
and
Choral
Russia.
Federation Anthem Choir.
So join us after the break for Russia's final game in the Rugby World Cup 2011. So Australia sensing the push towards the imminent challenge of the quarterfinals. Russia bidding farewell to their first top draw rugby tournament. It was Hug an Aussie Day on Wednesday. Will there be a bear hug from the Russians for the green and golds before they exit this country? Bryce Lawrence, the Kiwi, on the whistle. And already, well, schoolboy error really. Enthusiasm or over-enthusiasm from the Russians, immediately giving the Australians a chance to restart this match.
Yeah, they didn't want to start like that, Simon. You can see clearly they're all ahead of the kicker, Kushner off, and disappointing start for him, and gives an Australia a chance to work off the first scrum here.
Simplakevich on that left wing, looking somewhat embarrassed, it has to be said. Quite a disparity in the pack sizes, 27 kilos between those two packs of 8. And it has been a problem for the Russians through the course of this tournament. There's Grachov back in the starting lineup, the oldest man in this tournament at 38, but 38 years young, wearing 7 this afternoon. He's worn 6 and 8 so far. There's James O'Connor, a man who can also play in many different positions, dumped to the floor by Simplakevich, but Burgess keeping his team moving as Australia look to get the cogs linked up and get some momentum in these early phases. Higginbottom, what a big game it is for the Australian number 6, and that's not the start he wanted. They, of course, with no victories under their belt, have taken a lot from the experience and now looking to show that their learning curve, albeit steep, has been adhered to. Stephen Moore, to Nathan Sharp. Sharp winning his 98th cap this afternoon. Berwick Barnes offloads to Higginbottom. Good to see Berwick Barnes starting again. Really did make a difference the other day against the USA. A little bit of solidarity perhaps alongside Quade Cooper.
Yeah, it's a penalty there for offside again, and the Russians have struggled in their previous games against Ireland and Italy with a lot of penalties. But I think the referee, the linesman, is in talking to Bryce Lawrence.
And we've got 2 Irish assistant referees. There's George Clancy. You can see he was on the whistle here on Tuesday night. On the far side, Simon McDowell listening in. And I think it's going to be the Russian skipper, Korshunov, yes indeed, being called forward, along with his interpreter, Alexander Voitov, the second row.
It's just a warning there for Kushner. But I think actually an interesting thing there is Higginbottom made the carry. I think he lost the ball in contact, and it was you know, the penalty came from that ruck. It should have been a scrum to the Russians, in my opinion. See Higginbottom carrying here. He's quite high, and Popov is trying to rip the ball. We don't see it, but I think he lost the ball in contact. Quite fortunate there.
You can just see Korshunov giving a bit of a rib tickler, a nudge in the ribs for Quade Cooper. And the Australian line out slow to settle itself in. There is Higginbottom, another man from the Queensland Reds, of course, and there's many of them in this Australian lineup.
He had a great season with the Reds.
Of course, up against an ex-Red in Adam Burns, the Russian number 5. Look out for him, and in particular, Australia's number 1, James Slipper. A few years back, they had a spat on the training field, which went on a bit. Interesting to see whether it resurfaces here this afternoon. Burns has been out with some of the Aussie boys for coffee yesterday in town. Just renewing acquaintances. Of course, he plays for Melbourne Rebels now. There is James Slipper.
And that's a big boost for Russia there to get a penalty off the first scrum. That will certainly do their confidence no harm. They have struggled in the set piece in this tournament, and that will do their confidence. You see it here. Slipper just goes straight to ground, and it is a penalty. It's a clear penalty.
Well, they've got high hopes for young James Slipper, just 22 years of age. Earned his first cap a month after his Reds debut in the Super 14 as it was then. Good step back into midfield, and this is why they've picked Kushnerov at 10. More of a running game from the Russian fly half, and they hope to spark something. Quade Cooper, the second bite, slaps it back to Stephen Moore. Good covering work from the Aussie hooker, but he's back on his own 22 now. Burgess feeds Cooper, and Cooper slams it upfield. Mr. Ushko. Just having a look. Australian line setting itself on the 10-metre line.
Hold here.
And Rushkin running across field, looking for somebody to cut the angle really, and didn't really threaten the Australian defence. And kick right down the field from Kushnerov. He's not going to get any geographical advantage, so they'll come back for the scrum put in to Australia.
Yeah, poor kick there from Kushnerov, and Russia there showing some promise there with some good rucks, some good carries. Greshev makes a good carry, big hit from Pocock, and it's interesting to see him back today. It's his first game in a couple of weeks, Pocock. We see here Quade Cooper, and good cover from Stephen Moore, but he's a player I like, Cooper. He's continually getting tested by opposition teams, and he seems to love the challenge.
Quade Cooper really is rugby marmite, isn't he? He's like the Makuro Carlos, Spencer David Campese, I suppose, as well. He tends to polarise opinion, but really don't believe everything you read in the press, because the Kiwis have really taken to him over here. They've been, once they've been out of Auckland, you know, I was talking to Cooper yesterday, and he's really had a good time, a good experience. They've had a very warm reception, and certainly he's been enjoying his rugby. Right, Radike Samo, his first stretch of the legs. Hasn't played on the wing since 1999, he told me, for Canberra. The Australian boys have been calling him Marika after Marika Vunabaka, the big winger, Fijian winger. Out the ball goes, stepping inside Berrick Barnes, a wide open barn door for Berrick Barnes, and very, very simple execution from the Waratahs centre.
It's a lovely step from Berrick Barnes, and a really great individual try from him. Big gap in the Russian defence there. Simple stuff. We see the big man Samo going down the wing, making his first charge here. Pretty determined. And the offload to Burgess. It's just simple play, pass from Pocock, and a great step. Kushnerov, very, very poor in defence there. Speaking to some people during the week about the Russian number 10, he's certainly a talented player, but question marks about his defence, and he showed that there. But great step from Berrick Barnes.
James O'Connor going to start off with kicking duties today. It was shared between Curtly Beale and Quade Cooper in the last match against the Eagles. But O'Connor back in the lineup this afternoon. Early charge, not putting Cooper off, putting O'Connor off his preparation, but the ball floating past that right-hand upright. Well, we saw the kicking percentage there, and it has been the talk of a lot of the papers as to why the percentages are so low.
And it's probably the reason why Ireland have gone for Ron O'Gara in tomorrow's game against Italy. He's had 10 from 12, but there's been, you know, a lot of bad kicking in the tournament so far, and it could be a problem for Australia later on in the tournament.
Certainly one of the impacts that Berrick Barnes had on that match in Wellington was his kicking. 4 conversions he slotted. Let's see whether he's going to get a chance to show what he can do off the tee. Luke Burgess showing what he can do.